Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is SChillCode, and this game here is called Injection. It is my game. I made it. This video is one part advertisement, one part video tutorial, one part, I forget. But probably today, this new version of Injection is coming out, and I'd like to update the whole video tutorial, video walkthrough. Oh yes, that was the... No, wait, did I already say video? Anyway, let's begin. So you move your character with the arrow keys. You've probably figured that out already. And interact with things by walking into them. And if we interact with this little square here, it asks us for a key phrase. Well, we don't know a key phrase, so... no. Yeah, it doesn't like that. So the objective of each level is to get to this thing here. But unfortunately for us, there's a door in the way, and it's closed. We can't get through it. So what do we do about that? Well, we hit the semicolon key. And that gives us the injection console. And that allows us to run computer code on the game world. So, the first thing you want to do in each level, after you've looked over the level to see what you need to do, where the end of the level is, what elements you need to... all that sort of thing, you type dir with parentheses after it. Now, these parentheses indicate that this is a function call. It basically means this name is telling the computer to do something. In this case, we're telling it to dir, which doesn't actually make any sense, but it will in a second. And what dir does is it gives you a list of all the names you can use other than the names that are built into Python. If you don't know what Python is, well, it's the language we're using to communicate with the computer right here. And these are the names here. Now, if you type in... This is called a REPL, read, eval, print loop, and anything you type in, it is evaluated and printed. For example, if I type 2 plus 2, it's evaluated, i.e. the computer runs what I put into it, and it gives me back the result, which is 4. And that works for anything. So, in this case, what I put in was dir, and dir gives back a list of all the names that can be used in the console right now. And then, of course, I didn't actually do anything with that list, so it was just printed out. The next thing we want to do is check out these names. Now, most of these names will be the same every time, but the important one... well, I'll just go through all of them. Hint. You can probably guess what hint does. Hint is a function just like dir. And if you type hint, then you get a hint. Info gives you a bunch of information about whatever you put into it. And info is a function that takes arguments or parameters. So if we want to call info on info, we just... oops. We type correctly. That's what we do. We just put it in these parentheses. But we don't need to do that. So, what we're really interested in is objs. Objsa. And of course that too is a statement, and typing just the name of something will just tell us what it is. And in this case, it'll tell us it's actually a list, because you see these square brackets represent a list. A list just being a collection of other things, and inside that list, there's only one thing, and it is a keypad. So because obj is a list, we can pull things out of it with... we represent the first thing in a list. Let me start over with that. Things in a list are represented by the name of the list, objsa, and then square brackets, and inside the square brackets, you have a number. which is the number of the thing in the list, if that makes any sense, counting from 0. So for example, this is the 0th thing in the list, so obj 0 is this. And if there were other things in the list, then we'd access them with 1 or 2 or 3. And then if you want to assign another name to something, you use the equals sign. All the equals sign really does is it means make the name on the left, which we will just call keep for simplicity's sake, make the name on the left a name for whatever is on the right. It can be another variable, another name, it can be 2 plus 2, it can be obj square bracket 0, it can be anything. And now if we type in, we see that keep is the keypad now. So now, the next thing you want to do is see what things are by calling info, not info, yes, on them. Keep, and we hit enter, and that gives us a whole bunch of information. It tells us that it doesn't have a doc string. That's something I should fix, really. Ignore that for now. And it also tells us what the object's attributes are. And this one right here is pretty interesting. It's the code. Well, what have we interacted with that would have a code associated with it? Well, it would be that keypad, wouldn't it? So attributes are just names. They're just variables, names that are associated with another object. And you talk about attributes by saying the name of the object, which is keep, and then a dot, and then the name of the attribute. So code, and then keep.code means the code that is associated with keep. We hit enter to see what it is. And that's a bit too long to type, so we make keep.code a name for... Alright, I should probably tell you what these do. Double quotes or single quotes, you can use this too, but I use these. They basically mean literally the words in between the quotes. So this statement here just makes keep.code, keeps code, a name for literally the words open sesame. And now if we exit the injection console by typing in semicolon and then an enter, and we go over to the keypad, we can see open sesame, that it works. And the door opens, and the screen gets all weird, and we leave. Well, the screen only gets weird when you get close to the objective, but you see what I mean. Now, the second level, you can see that, again, we want to get to the little triangle-y thing. I guess that's supposed to look like a house, I don't know. But there's a wall in the way. And there's not a lot you can do about walls. So what can we do? Well, we go into the injection console, to see what we can talk about. And nothing new there. Let's see what's in obj. Well, there's a level porter. Now what's a level porter do? Well, let's find out. And it also tells us there's no documentation in that. That's interesting. I should fix that too. But we see a whole bunch of attributes. Target level, there's nothing we can really do about that. We don't know what that means. FX intensity, we don't know what that means either. Graphic, well, there's no point in changing that. But pause, well, what does pause mean? Well, pause is short for position. And in fact, Yeah, you are kind of expected to guess all this. It's not that hard to figure out. Well, these two numbers here, which are inside what is called a tuple, represented by these parentheses, these represent where the object is. The first number is how left and let me start that over. The first object represents left and right. So the higher this number, the further to the right. The lower it is, the further to the left. 0 is all the way to the left. I think all the way to the right is 80 or something. I don't really remember. And the second number represents up and down. 0 is all the way up. 40 or so is all the way down. So let's see what we can do about that. Let's pull out obj0 for convenience's sake. T equals obj 0. T dot pause. Well, we need to move it a little bit to the left. So let's just decrease that left number. Will we say t dot pause was? Well, t dot pause now equals, we can just do math. 16 minus 2. I'm only doing this to show off the console. I can definitely subtract in my head. No, I can't. There we go. T dot pause equals 14, 11. And you can see it's moved. And we get the weird effect, and well over. Now this object here is a pressure plate. And whenever something goes over a pressure plate, whenever something's sitting on a pressure plate, something in the level happens. Doors open, laser beams turn on. I forget what all can happen, really. This circular thing is a boulder, and boulders roll. They roll according to gravity, as we will soon see. So let's dir abjaza. And we see the 0th thing in obs is a boulder. Let's info that. Abjaza 0. Bam. Well, it has pause, but it also has... It has pause just like the last thing. I think everything has pause, actually. Especially dogs. But it also has this gravity attribute. Well, if we look here, there's actually some information about it just in text here. It says it's an object that moves according to its own idea of gravity. Well, that's that here. And that's basically the same thing as pause, except this doesn't represent a place, it represents a direction. So this is still your left-right number, and this is still your up-down number. 1, in this case, represents down, and minus 1 would represent up. Minus 1 here would represent left, plus 1 would represent right. 0 represents don't move at all. So you can see this would make it roll down and not at all to the left, just straight down. But you can see there's a pressure plate above it. So why don't we try abjaza, no, not a z, 0, no, yeah, dot gravity equals 0 minus 1. And you can see that makes it roll up, and it touches that pressure plate, and it opens the door so we can come through. And you can see there's another pressure plate. Same thing, really. We just set that back to 1, and it goes down, and we win. Now, this object here, this neat-looking glowing thing, is a gravity pad. Gravity pads change gravity on anything they touch. It only works when the object touches it, and then it stays that way, if that makes any sense. So you could see this thing roll down until it hit these glowing up arrows, and then it immediately had its gravity set back to up. It rolled up, and then it stayed that way. So what can we talk about here? Nothing else there. In fact, nothing actually changes in dir for, I think, until level 7. So we'll just skip that. What's in obs? Well, we have the boulder. But there's nothing much we can do with the boulder, because if we told the boulder to roll down, it would just hit the grav pad again and roll back up. So what are we going to do about that? Well, we also have the grav pad. So let's pull that out. Just 1. And you can see, because this is the 0th thing in obs. This is object number 1. So to talk about, we just say p equals obs 1. And indeed, if we type p, we can see that it is, yes, it is that. Let's info that. Oh, that's interesting. Anyway, we can see there's a whole bunch of crap, because gravity pads are pretty complicated, but the important things we need to know are grav edge. And the documentation up here actually tells us everything we need to know. It's an object that finds objects range tiles above it that have a gravity attribute, like a boulder, and sets that attribute to grav edge. And we can see this is grav edge here. And true to form, grav edge is up. So what do we do about that? Well, we want to park that boulder on that pressure plate. So let's try that. P.grav add equals 0, 0, and 0, 0 represents stopping. It means go nowhere. And you can see the arrow is changed to a dot, representing that the grav pad here will just stop the boulder. So we also have to set the boulder's gravity to down, so that it will roll onto the grav pad. Equals 0, 1. 0, 1 is down, of course. Oh, but it goes too far. Well, what do we do about that? Well, you remember that range attribute. So instead of p.grav edge, we have p.range. And that range is 3. Well, what if it has a range of 4? Well, you can see the glowing got a little more. It went further. So you can see now the gravity pad's influence extends to here. But the boulder's still sitting there because, you know, its gravity's been set to 0 and it's not, you know what I'm trying to say. So let's just have the boulder roll up a little bit, and then it rolls onto the pressure plate, gets stopped by the gravity pad, and the door stays open, and we can win. Whew. Hang on, I need a drink. Yummy. Now this level looks pretty familiar. It's basically the last level with some extra crap added. So let's just do the same thing we did in the last level. There used to be other things you could do with gravity pads. Eventually I'd like to put those back in, but for now this level has exactly the same solution as the last one. What? Oh, There. Okay, but now we have to deal with this pressure plate. Well, we need this guy to send it over here. So how do we do that? Well, we can see the second grav pad is 1 here, so obs1 dot gravage equals, well, remember, the first number is left and right. So we want it to go right, so we set to 1, 0. And then we need to make obs0, send it back up. Oh, wait, what? No, I did it again. Grav adj equals, no, not grav adv, adj, yes. Yes, we have 1. Here's where things start to get serious. That's a missile launcher. And that is going to send rockets at us that hunt us down and kill us. Now, dying in injection doesn't actually matter very much. It's just a slap on the wrist. You just get teleported back to the start, but that's bad enough. You can also see there was a boulder here, but when the missile launcher hit it, the missile launcher just sitting there, it destroyed it. So now what we need is to get through this door here, but that's not going to let us, and it's closed anyway. Well, there's a pressure plate there. What happens if we go and stand on the... What happens if we go... Yeah. So, well, it stayed open for a pretty long time, too. It's interesting. But anyway, if we step on the pressure plate, it opens the door, but how are we going to keep that pressure plate open? Well, we can't stand on it and walk through the door at the same time. So let's see what's in, Yeah, that's not in the release version. That's just a debugging thing. Don't worry about that. That doesn't happen. Let's see what's in OBS. Not INGs, OBS. I hate this tiny keyboard. Yes, there we go. Well, you can see we have access to a missile launcher, and we have access to a pressure plate. Well, let's just start off with that. Info, badges, 1, close parentheses, enter. Only accepts gates as targets, makes sure the gate can't be forced open. I'll show you what that means in a second. But you can see it has a target attribute, and that target attribute is a gate. Well, where do we know that there's a gate? I think you can figure it out on your own. Let's just g equals obs1 dot target, and now g is that gate. Let's info the gate just for thoroughness. Well, you can see it has an open attribute. Well, what happens if we mess with that? G.open equals true. Well, nothing happens. Well, that's because that pressure plate is keeping it open. But what happens if we try to move it out of the way? Well, this thing turns red and gets mad at us and stops us. This is an attribute enforcer. And all this does is make sure certain attributes of certain objects stay the way they are. So the gate's position cannot be changed, which is an issue. But we also have access to this missile launcher here, so let's see what we can do with that. Info, obs, 0. An object that spawns missiles directed at its target at... Well, here we see it has a target attribute, which is actually us. And that's no good. We want it to be pointed at something else. Specifically, we want it to be pointed at the gate. Because then it will, well, I'll just show you. Target equals G. And it shoots a missile at the gate, destroying it. Now we can walk through. But we still have that missile launcher to do it. Well, deal with, I should say. Well, what we can do then is obs0.target equals obs0. It'll destroy itself, and there's a nice boom, and it goes away, and we win. And I think I'm going to end this video here. This is where the game starts to get really serious, and I will have a video up detailing level 6 and level 7 probably later today, maybe tomorrow. Something, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to make a song reference, but I can't remember the lyrics. Anyway, until next time, this has been Astrylka. This has been the injection tutorial / walkthrough / advertisement / fiction. Until next time, goodbye.